Alrighty, live from the best home studio on the Herd Sports Network. It's episode 108 of Generation Red. We are the show that combines family and fandom for what we hope to be the kettle corn of Husker Fan Podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we get salty. We're also a proud member of the Herd Sports Network. I am your host, Ken.
And I am your other host, Scott.
And it's going to be a fun one tonight. As you can see, we have a guest in studio tonight. But before we get to talking to Chancellor, we just got a couple of things we'd like to ask you folks to do. If you're watching live, please like, subscribe, and make sure that you participate in the live chat tonight. We would absolutely love to have your comments and questions for Chancellor as we go along. It'll make this show a lot more fun and more interactive. We appreciate everything you guys do. Anybody that's watching this show on demand, sorry you can't participate live, but what you can do is you can also subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet, and also give it a like and leave us some comments. Helps push the video out to more folks that might want this content. And if you're listening to us on a podcast app, thank you so much. We appreciate you subscribing. Please do us a favor and leave us a rating and a review. That helps other folks find the podcast as well. So that's pretty much it. That's all the fun stuff that we have to start the show with. Now we can actually get into the real fun stuff, which is our guest. He is a former, you were a tight end, right, Chancellor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you were a tight end. And as a junior, he averaged 3 receptions, 20 yards, or had 3 receptions for 20 yards, along with 12, averaged 6.7 yards per catch and a touchdown, and 11 receptions as a senior, 100 yards long of 45, averaged 9.1 and 1 touchdown. Also, this dude was a devastating blocker when it came to goal line plays. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of safeties and linebackers in the Big Ten, or at least former ones, that still have a little ringing in their ears from some of the smoke he dropped on them. So welcome to the show and to the studio, Chancellor Brewington. Thanks, Chance, for coming in the studio, man. This really is, it's an honor for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is one of the best things I've ever seen and experienced. So yeah, this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Yeah,
that's why I built it. I just I love these pats on the back, folks. It's pretty cool stuff.
No, this is amazing.
This is really cool. Yeah, I've got a wonderful wife. So blessed with the fact that she let me have this room and was able to build this studio. And it's not going to waste. We've had some really cool people in here, you most especially. I really appreciate you coming in. We wanted to just kind of talk with you a little bit about, via Chandler, Arizona, right? Is that where you went to high school?
Yes, that is where I went to high school.
Okay, so where did you end up before you ended up to, because you had a little bit of a roundabout journey to get to Lincoln. Mm-hmm. So where did you go at first after high school?
Yeah, so after high school, I had a weird recruiting situation to where I waited and some offers got pulled, and I ended up going to Northern Arizona. Mm-hmm. And so I went there, and my objective or my mindset as I was there, I was thinking I won't be there for long. I wanted to transfer and play up. So I got a chance after the COVID season. Some things happened, injuries and stuff, and I felt like it was time to move. And made it to Lincoln.
So how did you end up on the current coaching regime's radar to come to Lincoln?
Yeah, so a good friend of mine, kind of play uncle, Toby Wright. He played in the 90s. And his son is on the current team, Buddha. Or Javen, right? And so he kind of dropped a nugget in the ear and was like, what do you think about Nebraska? And I didn't know anything about Nebraska at the time. All I knew was their colors were red and that, Toby played there. But other than that, I couldn't tell you anything. And then he would kind of keep dropping it in. And then eventually I went out kind of like a visit-ish for during COVID for the spring game. And well, I was like right after COVID ended. They had like a 40,000 at the spring game or 30,000, and yeah, no, it was awesome. It was awesome. I enjoyed it, and then it was kind of that trip that solidified and was like, this is where I need to be. Yeah.
That was the spring game we went to. Remember, right after COVID, when it was like 40,000 people. And that was the spring game we went to. That was right before the very first episode we ever recorded of this podcast.
Wow.
So yeah, full circle. How about that?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
How about that? So, playing in, so you started 2021 was your first season, right?
Yeah.
What a journey that was, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the 3-9 season, you guys. I have always said, and I think Scott agrees with me, and just about everybody agrees with me, that team was talented enough to go 8-4, 9-3. No ifs, ands, or buts. It just seemed like anything and everything that could go wrong toward the end of a game did. What was it like as a team to navigate that season and deal with it? I just got here and crap, we're going 3-9. This is hard to deal with.
Yeah, it was definitely an adjustment, just getting in there and understanding the culture and understanding what was expected. And timeline wise, I got there 2.5, 3 weeks before fall camp. So it wasn't like a thing where, I was there for the whole summer. So I kind of jumped right into things going into that season. And like you said, one of the most talented rosters I've been a part of and had the opportunity of playing with. There was obviously we had some struggles and some issues during the season. But it was so interesting. I don't think that truly reflected, I would say especially the year after that, but that year, I don't think it truly reflected what was going on in the locker room and certain things. Obviously, there were some issues. There were some issues. I mean, I think anyone on that team would say that there was some issues. There are some things that need to be cleaned up. And I think we cleaned them up a little bit the next year. But I think obviously what Rule is doing, I think those things are being cleaned up, and the culture's changed a lot. Yeah.
So what attracted you to actually say yes to Nebraska when they recruited you? Was it just, I want to get the heck out of NAU and they're a Big Ten school, or what? Was there something culturally you saw here that you thought you really wanted to be a part of? Because apparently Lincoln suits you because you stuck around.
I would say the theme of my life has been just following my gut feeling, and people can take what they want from that. But I definitely follow that, and I follow favor, and I follow where I feel like I'm being led. And at the time, I really feel like I was being led there, and all signs were pointed at that, and things just fell into place naturally. So I knew where it was coming from, so I just went with it. Yeah.
Good deal, man. It's good to be led to somewhere, and absolutely in your gut that this is what you're supposed to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
In spite of what comes with it in the future.
Yeah.
This is exactly where you're supposed to be because there's something bigger that you're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because right before that, I was in tip-top shape and training and doing my thing at my old school, and I broke both my wrists power cleaning. And so it just threw, life for a curveball, and there's questions that, am I ever going to play again, and all these different things. So it was actually right after that, I feel like my attention was shifted in a different way. I understood that there was something put in me that was so unsettled there at my old school, along with the wrist stuff. But it was like if that wouldn't have happened, I would have never left. So I'm obviously thankful that I broke both wrists, of course. So
yeah, I can see. Is that what those scars are on your hand? Is that surgery?
Yep.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. We'll talk about this. I got 3 surgeries on this, or 4 surgeries on this one, and 2 on this one. Yeah.
Was that all prior to coming to Nebraska or after you got here?
This was 2 of them, so there's 6 in total, 4 before, and then 2 while I was at Nebraska as well.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
You're making me hurt, and I've got arthritis everywhere. So Redcast Rob just commented and said, this looks fun, but suicidal tendencies just came on the stage. Yeah, that sounds positive, Rob. Gotta go. Hey, Brew, hope you're doing well. Got to get you back on the show soon. You've been on the Redcast then. I must have missed that one.
Yes, that was I think that was maybe the first interview I've ever done, outside of Nebraska media while I was on the team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They're such good dudes over there, man.
Yeah.
Some of our best friends are those guys over there. So they really helped us out when we first got started.
Yeah. It was funny because they interviewed me, I believe, when it was my wrist surgery and stuff. And I wasn't. They like told me not to talk to the media at the time, and I think I dropped a nugget on his thing, and like people went to his podcast for like just the update on how I was doing and stuff like that. So yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
They had a scoop then.
Yeah.
Oops.
The legend Moonbot is here. Yes, BA. Moonbot is here. And he says, hey, Coach, to BA. Coach BA is going to be possibly right here. Well, maybe not in studio, but on August 4th, he will be in studio. We're going to cover the August 3rd open practice. And then July 28th, he may come on with me remotely. If you're interested, if you're available on July 28th, we'll want to do a reaction to Big Ten Media Day. So just kind of a preview to
that. Might work better
That's
for
going to
me
be
than
fun.
the second time.
Because you played with all three of those guys going to Media Days except for Ben Scott, didn't you? You played with Ty and with Isaac, right?
Yeah. I'm actually going to be out there tomorrow.
Oh, that's cool. You get to go?
Hell yeah.
So
That's cool. For 93.7 saving you, aren't they?
Yeah.
So you're going to be interviewing a bunch of dudes?
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, BA. Appreciate it. Creeping up on 300. He's right. Last time I looked, it was 283. Yeah, we get to 500, we actually get monetized. How about them apples?
There you go.
Make some pennies.
Thanks, Moonbot. We appreciate it.
Well, I have a
go for it, Scott. Yep.
At Nebraska, is there a particular moment or maybe a constellation of experiences that you had where you got like the feeling of like this is home? Like not only for while you were at Nebraska enrolled, but also like, I could like you said earlier, you had a gut feeling. Can you pinpoint, like I said, a moment or maybe a constellation of moments that gave you that gut feeling? Was there a game? Was there a time in the locker room? Was there a time out in the town with your boys? Like, when do you have a moment where you were just like, this is a great place. I like this place.
I'm be honest, the first year I got here, it took a whole probably 6 months to adjust to it. Just coming from a small school, it was a lot to adjust to, just the quote unquote stardom. And it's just a lot to adjust to, going downtown or going to get some food and people recognize you and just the fishbowl. Yeah, the fan attraction that you get naturally, whether you play or not, which is crazy. And so just being able to manage that well, and understand that at the end of the day, it's just football. It's just the game we've all been playing since we was young. And I think that after that first 21 season, I kind of settled in and things became clear, and I formed relationships, and I wasn't this ball of stress, I would say, of trying to figure out myself and things like that. But yeah, I would say definitely right after I got my surgery, and that happened in February of 22. Getting that surgery, then kind of seeing the support I got from the staff, Coach Beckton, Coach Frost and stuff, because they could have easily went in the portal and got another tight end, and said, and that was one thing they were thinking, was that they're being open and honest, like, look, it doesn't look like you're going to recover soon, and you might not play again. So yeah, I would say that moment was kind of like, oh, these people, appreciate me and are men of their word. And yeah, I would say definitely that spring I settled in and understood that, like, this is where I'm supposed to be. Because the first year I was kind of unsure. First year I was kind of unsure. I'm like, I'm playing a weird role. I'm just hitting people at the goal line. Like, what's going on, And then the role expanded and I got to play real football. And yeah, it was awesome.
I liked watching you hit people at the goal line, man. That was like going back to the 90s for me, where fullbacks were leading up in the hole and blowing dudes up. It was fun to watch. And you were mentioned a lot on TV. Look at this hit by Brewington, and sometimes they had to look you up because they weren't sure who it was. Yeah. So yeah, that limited role certainly made it interesting. Coach BA has got an interesting, he just had Nick Henrik, which you play with Nick, on his show, and he had an interesting answer for when Rule was hired, because that would have been your last game as a Husker, right? I could go in, you beat Iowa, and Nick already knew. I think both he and Luke already knew that Rule had been hired. What were your thoughts, knowing that Mickey wasn't going to get the job, and a lot of the guys you played for were probably headed out the door?
It was interesting. I mean, during my college career, I had multiple head coaches, obviously just dealing with the Frost to Mickey. And then back at my old school, I went through a coaching change as well. So I was pretty used to it, and I understood. Like, I was just telling the guys, like, they were some of the younger guys that looked up to me. I was just like, hey, like, look, like, things are going to change. They're going to try and make you quit.
Right.
Like, be straight up. Like, they're going to try and make you quit. That first off season is always the hardest after a new coaching change.
Yeah.
It's weeding out the ones that don't want to be there. It's weeding out the weak ones. And so I kind of saw what was coming, but the way things have gone, and the way I would say the players I've seen react from afar. Obviously been in the building a few times, but been able to just talk to some guys and see like how they appreciate the culture and how things are really changing around. It's been awesome.
Justin Adams from Nebraska football, the voice of college football, one of the good dudes out there doing great content, says, "What's good, fellas?" Well, what's good, as you commented. Thank you. Appreciate it, Justin, and appreciate you letting us on your show a couple weeks ago. We need to get him on. I'd kind of like to have him be a part of our previews, because this is our first show in a series of shows where we're actually going to preview the season. So in some ways, we kind of like to get your input on where you see perhaps the wide receiver and the tight end room. Do you have any more questions about his time playing, Scott?
No, I think that was kind of the broad sweeping question I wanted to ask. It was just about how he felt about Nebraska and what was the it moment. And I think that's it. I think
cool.
That's for his time there. Cool. I have more questions in the future, some juicy ones.
That's good. That's good. We always like the juicy questions for sure. So let's move on to the 2024 football preview then for this season. Chance, what do you think? Have you been, I apologize, I have listened to your spot on 93.7 Ticket once, and that was probably 6 months ago. My podcast list is so full I can't ever keep up with it. But I was just curious, have you talked much about, say, the wide receiver room that we have now and the tight end room, and what do you think? 'Cause I know Fedoni was around, wasn't he? That was his first year, wasn't it? 2022.
21.
21. That's right. Yeah. That's right. He got hurt. So, what do you think? What do you think the prospects are for these kids this year, especially with the top quarterback prospect in the country coming in and likely going to be the starter? At least that's what everybody thinks.
Right. Yeah. So actually, me and Justin Adams, he was on my show last week, and we are just talking about all this stuff. So I would say, obviously you have to start off with who's at quarterback. If the number one recruit is there, then things change a little bit, I would say. You would have to, the terminology I would use is, do you want the system to fit the quarterback, or do you want the quarterback to fit the system? And so what I mean by that is, are you going to play to his skill set, or are you going to make his skill set fit in? And so I think with such a unique player like that, has many different arm angles, can throw well range of balls. And what I mean by that is he can throw, he can make throws from the opposite hash mark. He can make, throw hole shots on the right side. If he's on the left hash, he can throw out routes. He can throw corner routes from the left hash. So he, and I feel as if what I saw in the spring game, his footwork is very, very elite for where he's at. And that's a big time thing, but it's a key thing on timing with, I would just say rhythm with deep balls. And that's something we struggle with in the past. And I know people want to see the big plays and stuff like that. So I would say establishing identity, understanding if it's going to, I know everyone wants to see, ground and pound and get in 12 personnel or 22 and run the rock. That's all great. But has Nebraska ever had a quarterback that can throw the ball like this?
No.
Yeah. So I would say, me personally, I would definitely look at situation a little bit differently, and maybe have to tweak the identity just a little bit, because as before last year, we didn't really have a true, when we got in 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, the defense could do pretty simple things. And I would just say our passing game wasn't very elite. We would have to really get in third and short for them to be in concern. So, spreading some guys out. Obviously, you got Fedoni and Borkature. I think Borkature is going to have a good year. I think those two guys in the passing game is going to be great. And I think that tight end position is going to take a lot of pressure off of Dylan if he's obviously just going inside out. And I think he's a lot further than people realize mentally, in the way he carries himself and the way he takes care of his body and things like that. And that's going to show during season. And then obviously you got the older receivers, the transfers coming in, and you still got Jalen Lord. And I think Jalen Lord is a guy that his potential is up there. I don't think we got to see his full skill set. No. I think we just got to see him go deep, and that's cool. I think he's going to carve out a role doing that. But I think he's going to be asked to do some different things this year, and by doing those different things, it'll open up the offense a lot more.
He's more of an elusive guy, isn't he?
I would say so. I think he has a lot more lateral movement than people think. I think he has. I think he can become.
We kind of had to make it one dimensional because of how limited we were with our quarterback timing. We couldn't play these crazy offset timing plays that required an extreme level of competence from the quarterback that you can get a little bit more spicy with the with the wide receiver room. So we might get to see more of that this year then, huh?
Yeah, I would say definitely his route running development probably improved this offseason. And obviously he's going to be able to get past any flat-footed defender if he's even.
I'd say so.
The terminology that is used in the football world is if he's even, he's leaving.
He's leaving.
Yeah. So if he gets even with a guy, he's leaving him. So that's one of those guys that can definitely stretch the defense and get them out of some things, especially when you get in between the 40s. That's when the shot plays happen. But I think it's going to be awesome.
Well, so we talked about earlier, we kind of alluded to it. This is kind of leading to more of my, I want to say it's spicy, but it's just kind of more of a juicy, meaty question that I just is a theory that I have right now. And I want to get your opinion on it.
Okay.
Is that the culture at Nebraska right now is probably at the best place it's been in probably a decade or so. That would be my observation. But the curiosity comes into the curiosity comes from, why hasn't anybody left? Because like you said, you kind of alluded to it earlier. They want to, when new coaching staff comes in, they want to weed out the weak, and they want to get whoever isn't going to buy into the culture, they want to get them out. There was a few people that left in 2023, but it wasn't like a mass exodus by any stretch of the imagination. And then this year, it's basically been bird chirps. There's been nothing. Do you think that the reason why, as much as people want to harp and dog on Scott Frost and give him the hardest time possible, which in all fairness, he kind of deserved some of it, but on the other side, was there a culture that from a foundational standpoint wasn't rotten? There was a good culture at Nebraska, and a winning mindset, a culture that had good values, had an understanding of what it meant to be a family and what it means to play football and what it means to be a part of something bigger than yourself. It's just when it came to bringing it all together in a cohesive way, the Frost regime just kind of fell short in that regard.
Right.
And now with Matt Rule, he has got everybody in lockstep. That's my observation. That's what I think has been going on, is that this culture isn't just that Matt Rule is this just absolute genius who just can latch on to any soul that's walking on campus and can just fundamentally shift their mindset and fundamentally shift their character and change their life from a foundational level. I really think that Scott Frost got some good players that were willing to buy into a culture, and it just took a Matt Rule to complete that picture. Is that an accurate observation?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I think the players have always, I would say, bought in. I would just say they're there just needed to be tweaks in culture, tweaks in leadership, tweaks in how we view the game, tweaks in how we approach the week, how we approach summer, how we approach different things. Just little tweaks. I think it was really, really close. I think it was a lot closer than people think.
I believe it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I
think there are some good leaders on there. And just be honest, maybe some guys who weren't supposed to be leaders.
Okay.
I think that happens on every team.
Sure.
But yeah, live and learn. And I think Coach Raiola has done a really good job of understanding. I would say right when he came in, what was wrong, getting to the core source. I remember
getting those tweaks.
Yeah. I mean, he's, talking to former players, talking to guys who knew guys who played with the current guys and understanding, where it went wrong. And them and the guys just being completely vulnerable and honest with them and saying, hey, look, like we were really good at this, but really bad at this. And so I think those things have been patched up. Definitely enough to have a winning season this next year. I would say so.
What would you say is going to be at the end of this season, if you had to take a guess, where we could look back at this season from a cultural standpoint, if there is one word or one character trait that we will possess at the end of this year, what do you think it's going to be?
Oh, wow. That's a great question.
Dang, you're making my job easy right now.
Yeah. One character trait. I would just say learning how to win. And I think there's a mental fortitude to that. If you're always thinking about, fourth quarter comes and you always have in the back of your mind, we usually slip up these times, then you're probably going to slip up. So it's like talking about your problems in life all the time. Like, I don't got enough money for this.
Self-fulfilling prophet.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden it comes, those things stay and those things stick. So that was one thing we had a problem with the fumbling issue when I was there. We were always talking about it. We were always mentioning it. And then guess what happened? We started fumbling. So I think it becomes a thing where they learn how to win. Winning becomes natural. We go to first 4 games 4-0, and all of a sudden, like, we hop into Big Ten play, and it's like, oh, okay, well, we just win. I don't know what else we're supposed to do but win, right? So I think it's just training the mind and getting these guys to understand that I think they understand they are good enough, but it's just getting the results now and just wearing that as a badge of honor and being proud and being confident out there.
Absolutely. What a great question, Scott. What a great set of questions. Coach BA is throwing you some sunshine right now because you're
Coach.
next level of podcasting today. I appreciate your level of insight into your questions. I really do. I was going to go somewhere and then it just, but that's old brain for you. Well, before we got kind of into that deep stuff, I wanted to ask you, we talked about Matt Rule coming in and a lot of people, and you mentioned, and in fact, that nobody left in the transfer portal this year when they had a chance, right? I mean, that was telling that the portal opens and basically nobody leaves. Right. Well, the same was true after he got here, right? Other than like Garrett Nelson decided, I'm not going to play my COVID season. I'm going to go to the NFL. A couple other dudes, took off and whatnot. But, and like you said, whenever there's a regime change, there's always kind of this tendency that the new coach wants to weed out the weak ones. And it looks like most of these kids said, well, I'm not going to be the weak one.
Yeah,
I want to stick and I want to play for this guy. I think that says a lot, too, about not only culture, but about a coach that has an ability, as he said, to care, but he's not going to coddle kids. You jack up, you're going to get jacked up. But as long as you do what you need to do,
right,
and work hard, he's always going to care and he's always going to work with you. I think that's so important, especially today.
Yeah, I think the culture of Nebraska, whether we were losing or winning, I would just say while I was there, 21, 22, there were some hard workers on the team. And I think that was a identity that guys wanted to have. You think about like the Cam Jurgens and the Garrett Nelsons, those type of guys.
Some dudes.
Yeah. So, those were leaders on the team. So they weren't going to have anything less than, working hard in the off season and putting the work in. So that identity was kind of always there. We just probably needed the levels of leadership underneath or above just needed to be a little bit more refined, and the expectations out of the players need to be re-examined and identified, I would say. Yeah.
Interesting. So when we're looking at this season coming up here, what do you think is like a concern? Like, what do you think, if you could look at like one area in particular that could be our Achilles heel or the thorn in our side? Is there something that stands out to you, or is there maybe not?
Right.
Like, what do you see?
I would say this is it's a pretty vague answer, but it's just so true. The quarterback has to play at above, an 80 to 85% clip for the team to win.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is just executing at that rate, at that percentage. And simple execution doesn't mean completing a pass. I think a lot of people get that mixed up. Simply getting to the line and getting a playoff when there's 11 seconds left, that's executing.
Yeah.
Making sure guys are lined up, that's executing. Making sure, if it's Z orbit, you don't do Z cross on the motion.
You're communicating with your guys, the plays.
Yeah, and little things like I would say even a completion can be a dock or a minus. Missing big plays, making the plays that are written up.
You go through your progressions incorrectly, so you miss the guy open, but you threw it to the cross route anyway.
Yeah. And people see a 4-yard gain, but in totality, it was quarters, and we ran a pin concept, and the safety drove on the dig, and there was a post wide open over top.
Right.
But we checked down to the running back in the flat, right? Damn. And he got 4 yards. But everyone's like, okay, it's 2nd and 4 now. But anyone watching the film the next day says, well, we just missed a touchdown, and we needed that. And then you go back throughout the game, and this is what was frustrating, just my years there. And I wasn't not necessarily saying the quarterback, just overall in football terms from all positions. You just go back and you look at all the missed plays, and you just say, if we would have had 3 of those, we would have won the game, or just 1 of those, or if we hit on 85% of them, like I was talking about, then we go ahead and win.
Just outright. Just outright
we go ahead and win. Yeah.
Well, I have a position-oriented question for you, because this is, once again, I want to know your opinion. This is my observation as a complete and total ding-dong who doesn't know anything about X's and O's and played like football in my friend's backyard and when I was a kid. That was basically the extent of my football hands-on knowledge. But my biggest frustration last year was how criminally overlooked our tight end room looked specifically. I think that our tight end room looked really good last year. Fedoni and Borkacher were open a lot, and I don't know what. There was a lot of questions with our quarterback play last year, so that's just a whole can of worms that I don't want to get into. But from a position standpoint of tight end, last year, did we not have a really well executing and open tight end room, or was it just that the defenders and the defenses that we were up against knew that our quarterback play wasn't going to be elite enough to do the proper reads and the proper progressions to look for the tight ends, so they just didn't bother with them? Or are we looking at a potentially elite tight end room if we have a quarterback that can actually get the ball to them? So I guess it's a 2-part question.
Right.
Were we actually as good on the tight end room as I thought we were last year? They were just criminally overlooked all the time by our quarterbacks. And do you think that our tight end room this year can be close to elite or just downright elite?
Yeah, I think so. I think you got Fedoni going into his 2nd year under his belt, really playing. I believe so.
Yeah. He's not rehabbing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And first off season healthy. I think that's a big thing, and being able to run and do his thing. Then I think next, we got Borkacher, and I think his role will increase this year. I think it will. I think he has a just a unique play style where he's sneaky athletic.
Yeah.
And that's
a good way to put it.
That's something we used to always joke around with him. Just because he'll all of a sudden just make a crazy one-handed catch, or he'll just make a guy fall in one-on-ones, and then we're just like, Bork, like how, like like he's just walking around. It's just, if Bork, it would make sense. But I would say that that room has a lot of talent, and then you obviously got Lindenmeyer, who does some interesting things for him. Kind of has that role of does the dirty work. In 13 personnel, he's the guy capping off that, what would it be, ABCD gap. But yeah. I think the room will be elite. I think they go as Fedoni goes. But if I'm correct on the judgment I have of Fedoni, I think he's a phenomenal worker. He really puts his all into his work. And I would say this year, I would expect him to be one of the best tight ends in the Big Ten. And I think we're going to see a looser Fedoni, be able to see how he can run an open field and do some things, stretching it out a little bit too, and him being physical in the run game. I think it's going to be a awesome year for that group. So I would say they're going to be elite. Yeah.
And then you've got Carter Nelson coming in from Ainsworth, the best top recruit in Nebraska, and the dude's just freaky athletic too. Yeah. And I doubt they're going to keep him off the field in his freshman year. I'm guessing he plays at least 4 games. You never know what he's capable, because he's so fast and so big.
Right. I think it's one thing with freshman tight ends is the weight issue and the strength. Because you get into Big Ten, you're playing against 22-year-old grown men who can, squat 700 pounds and bench 400. So those getting into, the first UTEP, you could, if he's up to par during camp and, he's accelerated in his learning and that, he's expanded his IQ, because that's one of the things at the tight end position. You can't be put on the field if you're not smart. Any tight end that plays football is smart.
Oh yeah, you have to think on a multi-complex level.
Exactly.
You're not just a wide receiver, you're also a blocker, and you're not just a blocker, you can also wheel around and cause confusion and stuff.
Yeah.
And
you're essentially an extension of the O-line.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to know all their run pro terminology. You have to know your own tight end room terminology. You have to know their pass pro terminology, the tight end room terminology, know where the back is going. So yeah, definitely one of those things where they are unique.
That is a very unique position, and I do not envy the folks who do it, because it also requires a very, like, kind of what you were alluding to earlier with freshmen coming in. They can have a lot of talent. They can have a lot of freakish natural ability, but you're at 18 years old, you're not showing up at campus weighing 235, 250, ready to go to town with these elite defensive ends and linebackers coming at you and being able to push off of them like you need to.
Exactly.
And so, but I would I do agree with my dad. I think that they probably use him in some experiential, experimental, and give him some experience and some live game time, because you gotta see what dudes like that are actually capable of in a live, when live rounds are flying over his head.
I think one point off of that, I think that's why it's so important for when guys see teams like Michigan and Georgia and Bama and they ask questions like, why are their 2s and 3s able to jump into the starter role so easily? One key reason behind that is they blow out teams, and by blowing out teams,
they get a lot of experience for the young guys.
Yeah, their second team gets in the game and gets really comfortable and get some live reps against the other opposing team's first team, and third team gets some live reps as well. So the first 4 games, when you're playing lesser opponents, you want to win, of course, but you really want to get some guys in there in those certain roles and feel the pressure and understand what you're working with as a team. Like, we got a guy who plays great in practice, and we throw him out in the games, and poots to bed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's not what we want. So yeah. And then the vice versa as well. You got guys who maybe surprised you, and all of a sudden they carve out a role in those games later on for Big Ten play. So yeah.
It's a good point. I remember, not to go back to the old days, but back in the old days, it used to be mid-third quarter when Nebraska was at, conference championship level. A lot of those second and third stringers were getting in mid-third quarter because Nebraska was up by 4 touchdowns. And they could afford to get experience. That's why the offensive line, it just seemed like every year there was 5 new guys or 3 or 4 new guys on the line, and they never skipped a beat because they had plenty of game experience from being subs. That's why I love to see the depth on the team.
Right.
We're going to have a pretty deep tight end room. We're going to have a pretty deep wide receiver room and a dang deep running back room.
Yeah.
That to me bodes well, that if all these guys are prepared and are capable of playing and executing their job, you get into some situations where you're beating somebody by 20, 27 points. You can get a lot of these guys experience, and that's only going to help you when you get to Iowa, when you get to Wisconsin, when you get to the later games of the year. So
it is just a damn law of the universe, though, that like the better the team you have, the better you can get. Because like if you're in that mid-tier level football team, you constantly need your first stringers in there, so you're not really getting a lot of second and third string live game experience. And so when you're a top 5 team in the country, it's just crazy how much more elite you are able to get from first string, second string, and third string on, just because you have the luxury throughout the season to give those second and third stringers some live rounds thrown at them. It's just it's the Pareto distribution just manifesting itself in every aspect of life, but it's just, that's where Nebraska needs to find itself at. We need to find ourselves doing so well that we can afford to throw our second and our third stringers in there, at least 6 games out of the season.
Right.
We've got to we got to get to that level, because it just pays dividends in the long run. It's a return on investment that just, you can get all the talent you want, but if you're playing neck and neck every single game, week in, week out, are you really getting those guys the experience that they need to take it to that next level? Not unless you're Alabama, Georgia,
right,
and
exactly.
Ohio State, teams like that blowing dudes out.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. We saw last year, he makes sure those guys, even 3 deep and 4 deep on the depth chart, are ready to go because of the way he practices. Things like that. He had mentioned that earlier, that they want to use Carter all over the field. Eventually, Rule even said he could end up in the backfield. There's
That'd
a lot
be
of
interesting.
This is just, it seems like he's recruiting a lot of Swiss Army knives, especially these dudes that commit on the defense that are so long, rangy, and fast, and then they also like to run track.
Right.
So they're extremely flexible too. So, wow, I'm you know what? We did this in a show, 2 or 3 shows back. We did kind of a floor to ceiling record prediction where we gave kind of our reality pick, and then we gave our picks based on if we were drinking a lot of Roulade, as we like to call it. So if you had a floor for where you think Nebraska could finish on a record for their win-loss record this year, what would it be?
So we're saying like realistic.
Yeah. What do you think minimum? This is what Nebraska with what
3.
they have.
You could pick like worst case scenario, most likely scenario, and best case scenario.
Yeah, I think worst likely. Obviously I'm not speaking this out, but let's say the quarterback doesn't play well and struggle offensively, and defense has to be on the field all day, and kind of same struggles as last year. I would say, you're sitting around that 6-game, 5-game mark. I think it's going to be the same story as last year. Obviously, that's the clip with I would say 6 wins. That would probably be the worst case scenario, just because how strong the defense is, and you got a lot of guys coming back. You got the soul heart of the defense of Giff and Ty and Nash coming back, and you add in all these young pups on the D line and these veterans, and I would say 6 wins. And then if we're saying everyone plays decent, above average, everyone's executing and stuff like that, I would say around I would say we're creeping up like, 7, 8. But drinking that roulade and being optimistic and everything's firing all cylinders. We come out, first game UTEP, fire on them, Colorado, keep firing on them, and we keep that rolling. That creeping into that 9-win category, it's just so interesting. We're not playing the bigger Big Ten. We're not playing the Penn States. We're not playing the bigger Big Ten teams.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the Big Ten is so strange. There's always some type of team that emerges, and you never know what type of season Rutgers going to have. You never know what Indiana you're going to play or what type of Illinois you're going to play, Minnesota, Wisconsin. You just don't know about those teams. But I would say, if everything's firing, I would say 9 to 10. 9
Nice.
to 10 is like, that's the quarterback playing at a 90% clip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if we're having Dylan play as a 90% clip, then we're talking about Heisman candidate and things like that. So I think people have to put that into perspective. If Nebraska wins 10 games, their quarterback is playing at an
insanely
extremely high level, and he will be a Heisman candidate
easily.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so,
you don't just go into Nebraska and play elite quarterback play.
Right, exactly. And one of the last dudes to do that has been Johnny Manziel. So I think just understanding that and putting that in perspective and understanding, like, if you're expecting a 10-win season, I would just say, okay, hold up, put that in perspective. You're expecting a Johnny Manziel out there. Not to say that he's supposed to be running around the field, but that elite level of play. So yeah.
Right. And you're also probably, if you're winning 9 or 10 games, you're probably flipping that turnover margin too. Instead of being negative 17, you're positive 7 to 10.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
so you have like a
6-to-1
touchdown to interception ratio with Raiola, and our defense is just taking balls away like candy from a baby.
Yeah, the ratio probably every game would be, we're up by 2 on the turnover ratio.
Yep.
Meaning
that'd be nice.
2 takeaways.
That would be a good feeling, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I would give a limb for that.
And they're figuring out how to win. If you're winning anywhere in that 7 to 10 range, they're figuring out how to win in tight games.
Right.
If you're winning 10, though, they're probably not playing too many.
Like you said,
games.
though, it's so hard because like the Big Ten truly is a cannibalistic conference. They just it's so we just consume, like there's always like a Purdue upsetting somebody. There's always a Minnesota upsetting somebody. And yes, with Greg Schiano and Rutgers, I mean, Rutgers is they're over under win losses is 7.5 like Nebraska. They could be a dark horse of the mid tier Big Ten teams. And we don't play Penn State, we don't play Michigan, we don't play Oregon, but we still have to play USC, we still have to play Ohio State, we still have to play Wisconsin and Iowa. And asking for 10 wins is a lot, but if Raiola is everything he's cracked up to be, and our defense takes a step forward, and our wide receiver room and our tight end room are looking good, and our offensive line takes a tangible step forward, I mean, we could find ourselves in a very precarious situation with the college football playoff committee. I mean, it's going to be 12 teams in the playoff this year. If all things go right, I mean, it's like, who wouldn't? I mean, from a rating standpoint, if you are sitting there in a room where your sole purpose is to make the NCAA pools and pools of money, and there's a Big Ten team like Nebraska on the radar to throw in there as a top seed, or a runner up of the Big Ten championship or whatever it would be, I mean, why not?
Right.
But I mean, we'd have to make it to the Big Ten championship, which would be bananas if we did that. It'd be absolutely mayhem. But I can dream. I can have my roulade tonight. But no, I agree. I think it's probably more of like that 7 to 8 win realistically. Because I just don't. Don't clip this, please, for the love of God, internet. Don't do it. But now that I've said it, the Streisand effect is going to kick in full. But I just don't see a scenario where Dylan Raiola just shows up and just absolutely lays an egg. I see him playing decent. I see him at minimum. He plays better than what we've seen at Nebraska for a little while. He's just so competent. I mean, literally every analyst and every single scout and expert that can possibly critique this guy, especially with him going to Nebraska, knowing that he decommitted from Georgia and decided he was going to go to Nebraska, there's always going to be a hit campaign for top tier guys that decide to decommit from, elite schools and go to, a school that's been downtrodden or just isn't on that elite level. They always tend to punish the evaluation of those players. And they didn't. They're like, this dude is a freaking Power 5 starter just right out of the gate. Like, this guy is just bananas. He has got Patrick Mahomes' footwork. He's got that finesse that Patrick Mahomes has. He's just got this. He's got that. And you're just like, stop it. For my own sanity, don't hype me up like this, because
don't break my heart again, please.
Because yes, like we discussed this earlier, I don't think Nebraska has had an elite quarterback since we were competing for national championships. We've had some good quarterbacks. We've had, there was a Taylor Martinez we had who, if he didn't get that turf toe injury, he was the next was he the next Johnny Manziel, or was Johnny Manziel came after him, right?
Yeah. I think so.
Manziel came right after him. We haven't seen an elite quarterback at Nebraska, and I'm just so I'm so morbidly curious to see what that would look like.
We haven't seen an elite passer.
An elite passer.
You could say Zach Taylor was a pretty good passer. He did win the Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year in 2006.
Joe Gans was really good.
Joe Gans was a good thrower, and then he could run just enough to get himself out of trouble. But yeah, you know what? Your floor to ceiling is kind of where I landed when we did our show, was right around 7-5. For realistic and what I would expect out of the team, and then 10-2 if everything just really falls into place. You kick the crap out of Colorado in week 2, and all bets are off at this point. Really, you get
the amount of swagger that they have at that point. Like,
so, yeah. What you doing nowadays, Chance? What's I know you've got the show. What's brewing at the Ticket, right? So what else, what kept you around Lincoln? I mean, really, after you got done, you could have easily gone back to Chandler like a lot of Arizona Huskers have done. What kept you in Lincoln?
You want the real answer, or you just want,
the real answer?
The real answer.
The real answer.
I would say, what has kept me around Lincoln? I would say it's the feeling, as if we were talking about earlier. But it's been confirmed that I'm supposed to be out here for a little bit longer. So how much longer? Don't really know. Don't really care, to be honest. But I just know I'm supposed to be out here. I found a great support system in Omaha, my church, Ambassadors Worship Center. And so they've done a fantastic job of teaching me more about myself in a different way. And so being able to understand myself and understand why I'm here, the gifts I have, and being able to sharpen them for the next thing. So I fully believe that the radio station is awesome. I love it. And I thank Derek Pearson, DP, the owner of it, for the opportunity to be there and to be able to have a platform to speak. But I definitely believe that I really just see everything as just sharpening my blade. I see everything. Even this, I can get better at this. I can, I'm always looking at it like that. So definitely being out here, being able to understand myself, and I feel like that's the first key to success is knowing who you are, knowing how you tick, knowing why you're here and where you're from, and and who you are. So yeah, I would say that's why I'm out here.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Do you miss Arizona?
No.
Neither do I. Why do you think I've lived here for 30 years?
You vibe with the cold, miserable, negative 15 degrees with 25-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, I definitely will not I will not be out here during winter if I'm still. Yeah, I will definitely be living somewhere else. That was ridiculous. I did not enjoy that.
Yeah, that's yeah. My wife and I, we went on a little mini vacation to visit my grandparents down in Arizona. It was like 2 years ago, 2022, in February of 2022, and it just was like, oh yeah. We left. It was like 5 degrees with freezing rain. We weren't even sure if we were going to be able to take off.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this is how I'll take it. It was like we left, and then we actually brought the weather back with us, because when we came back, there was like some system of pressure changes that came in, and we came back. It was like 50 degrees in the middle of February. It was like, why? How does this happen?
So Chancellor, as we kind of wrap it up, this has been first and foremost a fantastic conversation. Your insight into the culture of the locker room and the insight into what you think of the new coaching staff and where you think this team could be going is just we couldn't have asked for anything better. We really appreciate your insight. But what we also like to do, and it's something he and I haven't done for quite a while, but we thought we'd bring it back. Fun fact. It's just simply a fact about yourself that maybe you have not told on the air or anything like that, or a hobby, something going on in your life that just people may be really interested in hearing.
Or not. Maybe it's something stupid. Maybe it's like, I actually don't condition my hair. I don't shave, anywhere else besides my face. Like, it could be something absolutely stupid.
Right.
Or something,
significant.
Arguably significant. Whatever you want it to be. Fun facts. What's a fun fact?
Fun fact
about Chancellor Brewington?
I would say, I would say I love reading.
Cool.
I've dedicated myself this year to. I think I started in March, to reading 1.5 books a week.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a lot of reading, buddy.
Yeah, so
you ain't going to start with War and Peace, are you?
No. depending on the book. Like, I read Awaken the Giant Within and Tony Robbins, and it's like 600 pages. Obviously
some late nights.
Yeah, so there's obviously that can stretch out the 2-week mark, of course. But yeah, that's something I really dedicated myself, and I really value knowledge, and once knowledge is applied, it turns into wisdom and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really value that, and like I said, I think that's part of sharpening my blades. So yeah.
Is there any book in particular that, like, since you've started this, that you're just like,
can't get enough?
Damn, my paradigm has shifted because of this book. Or is it a collection?
I love
of books?
the word paradigm. Oh my gosh, I could talk about that all day. But anyways, I would say I've read The Alchemist 2 times this year. And that book has so many different layers to it. Obviously there's no book like the Bible. That's my favorite book. And that's something I have, how should I say this? I have studied this year, and I've dedicated myself to that. I just one of them people who don't, if the 99 is moving one way, I want to go the other way.
Yeah.
Like, I want to know the mysteries. I want to know, like, the different things about it, like the things that people miss, like the deeper meaning behind, why we're here, and the intent for why we're here, and who we're made for and why certain things happen the way they do. So definitely the Bible, but the way I see every book I read now this year is I can take every book I read, and I read some, quote unquote religious books, or whatever you want to call it. And some books that don't have nothing to do, just mindset training or money and stuff like that. Right. But I can tie every book I read back to the Bible. I can tie every book. I think every piece of literature can tie back to the Bible. I think it's the foundation of everything.
It's the foundation of literature and Western culture and the university, and all of our knowledge can be directly attributed to the ancient thinkers that formulated the early texts of the Bible. It's an undeniable fact of reality. It doesn't matter if you're religious or not. You can absolutely think that. It just so happens we're all religious in here, so we're just going to be a little bit biased, but
absolutely.
That's okay though. It's just a part of knowing thyself. I can admit it,
I found this year I started reading a book, Understanding the Bible, I think in 30 days is what it's called. And I've been through it once already. Basically, it just breaks down all the timeline, number one, because all the books aren't arranged in timelines.
Exactly.
So you flip around and stuff. So it grabs all the timelines and then it gives you all these flow charts. So you can see where things fit and how they fit and why they fit the way they fit and why they were written the way they were written and who wrote them and all that. And it just was like, oh, now I get it. You know what I mean? You'd love the book, but now you love why the book is the book.
Yeah,
because it just unlocks it.
Yeah, especially when you get into like you get past like Chronicles, you get into the prophets and stuff like that. They're all like, you don't even know. They're all like 700 BC and you know, different things like that. And then so that's like, a whole rabbit hole.
Like thinking about
where
the difference of culture.
The timeline of Chronicles or Kings or Samuel, you're like, oh, he was here at this point. No wonder that guy hated him and this, that, and the other. Yeah, it's really cool. I love all that kind of stuff. I need to get back into it. See, I'm so auditory now. I listen to everything instead of reading it, and I really need to read it. That's pretty much it, unless you had a quick fun fact. I know for me, it was I got to go to church this morning in Firth, Nebraska. And Dan Whitney, a.k.a. Larry the Cable Guy, was there giving his testimony.
Oh, sick.
So, yeah, it was really, really cool. The pastor in Firth is one of the guys that does the podcast with him that he does with the pastor at Lincoln Berean called Talking Truth. It's one of my favorite podcasts. Very straightforward, good stuff. So got to see him. I've met him several times because I work at Hillcrest Country Club here in Lincoln, and he's a member out there. So I've met him several times. Just wish the line wouldn't have been so long and my wife could have met him, but just didn't work out. But that's kind of my little fun fact. You got one?
Yeah, it's that I think I've talked about this before. Maybe it's an updated fun fact. I've talked about my obsession with cologne before.
I don't remember.
What's some good ones? I need some good ones.
I have yes. So first one would be Valentino. Valentino is just a perfect. It's just gotten a hint of spice, a hint of sweet, a hint of smoky. It kind of gives you that either I'm going out on a really, really romantic date or just an everyday scent. It somehow manages to encapsulate them both. Right now I'm wearing Moustache, and I don't know who it's by quite yet. And the reason why I brought this up is because my friend Antoine, his name is actually Antonio, but I call him Antoine. He is actually legitimately obsessed with cologne. He's got probably over 100 bottles of at least the 3.7 ounce bottles of full, real, eau de parfum or parfum, just top quality colognes. But what he fascinatingly does is he finds knockoffs of some of the best ones. Like there's this one called Angel Share, and it's like a $350 bottle of cologne. And there's like a knockoff called Camera, and it's like $37. And if you smell them side by side, even the most like elite cologne connoisseurs can't tell the difference. And so he has like half his collection is like, like he gave me is it Giorgio Armani? Yeah, Giorgio Armani. Stronger With You. He's got the real deal of that, and he gave me like a little sampler of it, and it's like $50. So he's just given me a bunch of samplers because he has so many bottles. It takes up his entire top of his long boy dresser, and then he's got another box of like extras that he's bought as investments for the future.
Investing in cologne is crazy.
Yeah.
If he has any extras you want to give out, hey, I'm all there for it.
So now I have this little tiered, like it's like a terrace, like a bamboo wood terrace thing in my closet of just all of my cologne. I have like 7 bottles of my own cologne, but then I've got like 25 little 1 ounce samplers of ones that he's given me, because he's just like, dude, that's gonna take me like half a century to get through all this cologne. So I'm gonna give you some. So fun fact about me is I have a bunch of cologne, and I love all of it, and I can wear one every single day now of the month.
Awesome.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I love it. Well, we're down to toward the end of the show. So Chancellor, we like to have guys that come in the studio sign the sign.
Of course.
And as a player, you get to sign on the end. So do us a big solid and throw your name and number and
perfect.
Anything else on there that is pertinent when you sign stuff. And then, of course, while you're doing that, excuse me, stupid NA beer gets me every time. I just announced real quick, that's our very first charity scramble that Generation Red is sponsoring. It's at Woodland Hills Golf Course in Eagle, Nebraska on October 12th, 2024. That's the first bye week. So if you get the bye week blues like we will, we have the cure. Just go to genredpod.com, go to the top of the page. It says play golf with us. Click on that link and you can register your team to play. And you can also click the link to sponsor a hole. We're raising money for those who suffered, the victims who suffered the tornadoes on April 26th. And all that money will go to the Salvation Army and they will donate it specifically to those victims for whatever their needs might be. So please help us out. Go to genredpod@gmail.com if you'd like to volunteer for the event, or to let us know if you have any memorabilia or anything like that that you believe would be of value to put on a silent auction so we can raise even more money. We'd appreciate it. I've got a signed jersey right over there from Grant Wistrom that he sent me that will be probably the featured item at the auction that day. So genredpod.com, come play golf with us. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
You play golf at all?
No, my dad plays a lot of golf.
Okay.
Though. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let him know. Follow info. Where can folks, if you want to give that out, do you have
Yeah, for sure. On Twitter, probably the most active on there. More football Husker stuff. At Chancellor Brew 1. That's for Twitter. Then Instagram, C_Brew with 2 W's and then 7. Yeah,
Nice.
Cool. So that's my more.
Then you've got a YouTube channel too, right?
Yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. I'll probably be doing some stuff during season, doing some play-by-play stuff, being more active on there. It's just at D&D Vids.
Cool. You're not on Twitter yet?
Nope.
We're gonna get him back eventually, folks. I promise.
It's just like there's just an internet tumbleweed just rolling through my Twitter feed because I haven't deactivated it. It's there. It's the illusion that I'm there, but I'm not.
Well, you just had a birthday yesterday, and you are now the age that I was
when Nebraska
I
am 30.
Won the national championship. I was 30.
I am old, and I feel it because we did softball practice the other day, and just that hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I can.
And my body, but mostly my feelings.
Well, you can follow the show at GenRedPod. On Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We can't go live right now on Twitter because for some reason they've decided that live streaming to Twitter is now a premium feature, and I have not paid for the premium feature yet. So also genredpod@gmail.com is our email address. genredpod.com is our website. Spit it out, Ken. Spit it out. You've only done this millions of times. Generation Red is the search term for the podcast for this live stream. So if you prefer to get them in audio form, just find us on your favorite podcast app. And we appreciate you listening. This has been a whole lot of fun. Our next live streams will probably be this next Sunday, July 28th, same time, same channel, 7:30 p.m. We're going to do a reaction to Big Ten Media Days. Going to have some video from the Media Days. And then August 4th, we'll have our reaction to the open practice with Coach Ben Audi from the BA Coaches Show, who's been very active in the chat tonight. Thanks, Coach. Are you going to go to the practice?
Probably not.
Probably not?
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be like a night spring game is what I've been hearing. So should be a whole lot of fun. I can't wait. Absolutely can't wait. So I think that's it. For Chancellor Brewington, again, we really, really appreciate you coming in the studio. Sight unseen. He's never met us. He wasn't sure walking down the basement steps if he was going to emerge alive, but he's done. We're done. We're going to get out of here, send him home. I'm Ken. He's Scott. Together we're Generation Red, and we're here to chronicle Nebraska's inevitable return to greatness, one podcast at a time, because there is no place like Nebraska.
And Iowa's going, it just sucks today. I couldn't think of a good metaphor.
I tell you what didn't suck was the corn on the cob I made on the griddle last night in the Blackstone outside.
Ooh. 4
pats of butter, 3 ears of corn inside a tinfoil pack, and threw it out there on the griddle with some hickory dust seasoning on it. Oh yeah, there was nothing wrong with it. It was tasty.
Ooh,
Anyway,
yum.
thanks again for watching, folks. Go Big Red, and we will see you next Sunday.
Go Big Red.